Alright everybody, welcome back to another Friday Night Magic tournament from Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia. It's our last FNM broadcast of the year. We will be off next week as we celebrate the holidays, so I'm going to be out of town. So enjoy it while it lasts, the last stream of 2013. Already into the action here, we've got 19 players tonight, so 4 rounds of Swiss, followed by a cut to top 8. And in our round 1 feature match, we've got Reid, normally a blue-white control pilot, but this week is playing a Bant Midrange deck. It's got some control elements to it, as well as some moderate ramp, but it does have a high end of Aetherling. So it's to his credit, Nick called it a jank Bant deck, but it is full of quality cards, so it shouldn't be an issue. His opponent's Skibbe. We saw Skibbe a couple weeks ago when he was in from college take down that FNM with his very interesting Bant Midrange deck. It's a bunch of value cards like Jund normally brings to the table, including Planeswalkers, Reaper of the Wilds, and Mana Accelerants. And right on time, we see a Reaper of the Wilds make an appearance. But a Supreme Verdict is going to clear everything out. It looks like Nick may have been able to stabilize here with the D-Sphere taking out a Xenagos. And so Stormbreath Dragon making an appearance as well, doing what it does best and landing and immediately attacking in for 4. And then Nick is just going to go ahead and land a Prophet of Kruphix, which is going to give him a significant mana advantage here. But his only answer to that Stormbreath is going to be an additional sweeper, so not sure exactly why we're throwing this out there unless we're going to try and race it. Looks like that might be his plan here. Smiter into Scavenging Ooze into Loxodon Smiter at the end of Casey's turn, so he's going to be able to attack for, well, if he eats 3 creatures, attack for 9 here. That's a 2-turn clock. That might be good enough to race the dragon here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And that's exactly what he chooses to do. So Nick is going to go back up to 11. More importantly, going to knock Casey down to 9. And Casey dead on board, playing off the top of his deck. No, I apologize. His hand was off camera there. It seemed like he should have more cards at this stage in the game. So Casey doing some math here. Remembering that the Prophet was exiled with the Scavenging Ooze as well. So he'll be able to effectively block the Loxodon Smiter. We're several mana away from being able to go monstrous on our own dragon. Play a couple of blockers and then serve in with the dragon. It's the only way he's going to win is to try and clog the ground up enough that he can prevent this. So a 7th land and a Cyclonic Rift will be good enough for Nick, should he be playing those. It's not going to matter as he doesn't have that. We're going to block the 5/5, take the 4, and go down to 5. Let's see if Nick has a follow-up here. So Nick thinking pretty hard about this. Obviously has a relevant card here. I guess he's deciding if he wants to... Well, he did have the 7th land. I guess he could possibly be thinking about whether or not he wants to sweep the board. Can't see what 2 cards he's holding in his hand, so... So Casey just going all in here, forcing Nick to have an answer. Sphinx's Revelation is going to be good enough. It'll put him up to 10. So he'll survive this attack. He'll draw 3 cards. While he's tapped out, Casey's going to finish off the Scavenging Ooze with an Abrupt Decay. So Casey's going to go down to 1 here. Off at minimum the attack from the Smiter. More importantly, Nick needs to find some way of preventing himself from being dead. Next turn to an attack from 2 dragons. Cyclonic Rift overloaded. And Supreme Verdict, the only things I believe he would be playing that would answer those dragons. And I can't imagine anything else in these colors that would give him that last point of damage he would need. In his hand I see a land, a D-Sphere. All of those things are not going to be good enough. Looks like 2 lands. Looks like a Temple Garden, a Forest, a D-Sphere. No, he cannot come up with an answer, so he could attack Casey down to 1. And as is the peril in every game of Magic, we'll have to go back and think about, did he miss a point of damage somewhere? I don't think that he did. I think he was just unfortunate that Casey drew that second dragon off the top. So Nick will go to the board, see if he can find some kind of answer to the pro-white Stormbreath dragons. And we'll move to Game 2, our Round 1 feature match with Casey's Bant Midrange deck up a game. Thanks a lot, guys, for checking us out tonight. 56 people watching currently. I know a lot of people are traveling, getting home from college. Still a few days away from the holiday season, so it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of you have other things going on. Have something better to do on your Friday night than sit and watch a grown man sit in a closet and talk about imaginary wizard fights. But that's not going to stop me from doing that said activity. And we'll take this time like we do every week to thank the fine folks here at Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia. One of 4 Lost Legion stores, all here in the Great Mountain State in Princeton, Beckley, South Charleston, and Parkersburg. So if you're ever in the area, we're only a couple hours away from places like Pittsburgh, Blacksburg, Lexington, Cincinnati, and Columbus. 3 major interstates go through the heart of the city. So if you're ever in the area, stop by and support those who support the stream. We also want to thank the fine folks at InkedPlaymats.com who hooked us up with a sweet custom double playmat. If you want your own custom playmats or just want to look at some cool playmats starting as low as $10 each, head over to InkedPlaymats.com and again help those guys out because they did us a solid on the playmat. And then finally, while we always encourage you to support your local game store, we all know there's cards you need that you can't find in your local display case, and if that's the case, head over to AffinityForCards.com for some of the lowest prices on the internet. Also selling cards on TCG Player. So check those guys out, and again, support those who support the stream. If you use coupon code LOSTLEGION, all one word, you'll get 5% off your first order there. And for those of you who are local, there's a Pro Tour qualifier here in Charleston coming up on January the 4th. That's a Saturday here at the Charleston Civic Center. If you want more information on that, make sure to get in touch with me on our various forms of social media. I will be there, and Affinity for Cards will be there vending as well. So if you come by, try to win your chance to go to the next Pro Tour, and at a minimum, buy and sell some cards to Affinity. Alright, so we're off to the races here in Game 2. Nick's starting off strong with an Elvish Mystic. So again, highlighting that his deck is more of a mid-range deck rather than a Bant control build. He does have a high end, but the control deck usually doesn't go turn 1 Mana Dork into turn 2 Scavenging Ooze. So Nick putting the pressure on early. Casey shocking himself and then passing the turn back, representing, I guess, Abrupt Decay here. Seems to make the most sense. So Casey lets the attack go through here, and then Nick is going to play a Centaur Healer, which is going to meet an Abrupt Decay. but not before Nick gains 3 life. So Nick obviously sideboarding those in, which is interesting. I guess he may have some dead cards in this matchup. The D-spheres are not. Well, no, the D-spheres are good too, because Casey does play in a certain number of planeswalkers. So Nick's serving in with just the ooze this time. And then he's going to play another Centaur Healer. But interesting that he didn't attack with the Elvish Mystic, so not sure exactly what the line is there. And then Casey just plays his 4th land, shocking himself down to 13, but netting a Reaper of the Wilds, which is a very obnoxious card. 4/5 for 4, which has conditional hexproof and regenerate. And Casey falling for the what seemed like a fairly obvious trick there, as Nick suiciding his Centaur Healer into the Reaper, but I guess Casey in a position where he may want to protect his life total. So not the worst blowout, but definitely not where Casey wants to be. Dragon shows up, but it's on defense here. Then Nick's just going to have to pass back. And there is yet another dragon. This has got to be, to a certain extent, very frustrating for Nick here, as he has pretty, as far as the cards go, pretty good control of the game so far, but just getting beat by 2 copies of a card his deck has a very difficult time dealing with. An overloaded Mizium Mortars clears out his offense. So he's going to have one more draw step to try and find another white source. And he's not even going to have the extra draw step because I forgot about Monstrous. So much for playing Magic. Oh, Nick showing.
All these primordials.
Still had all these 7-drops that are useless. And I'm not sure if the camera is just set up incorrectly, or if these guys just have a proficiency for pounding the table and bouncing the camera, but hopefully that doesn't plague us for the rest of the night. 30 minutes left in the round, so we should have plenty of time to find another match to slide over, so I'm going to step outside, see if we can find said match, and then we should be back shortly.
The hand that just withdrawal in my pain medicine. Got the sweats.
Alright, so game 2 in the bonus coverage here in round 1. Jeremy Bales lost game 1 against Troy King. Jeremy's on a Boros Aggro deck as best we can tell. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks like White Weenie to me, that we're going to see a shock take out a Soldier of the Pantheon. And then Troy is on a Young Pyromancer deck. It's a Boros burn deck, so it's Young Pyromancers and then every burn spell. And then, like I said, he is playing Chain to the Rocks as well. And it probably has some kind of additional creatures, be they Chanter's Phoenixes or Boros Reckoners, whether they're in the main deck or the sideboard, and what numbers, I'm not sure, but we'll figure that out as we go along here. So Troy is playing the control deck route here, spending 2 shocks early to take down 2 threats. Jeremy missing his 3rd land drop and does not have a follow-up here, so be interesting to see what Jeremy has in his hand.
That black-white Skyland is simply to push lands to the bottom, and also the red-black split card.
The sudden impact.
Yeah, sudden impact and sudden impact.
So there's a Daring Skyjack off the top, which Troy's just going to murder everything. he's just literally just playing control here.
Well, Troy needs to find one of his creatures to start getting some value out of these burn spells.
So there's a Blind Obedience, obviously coming in out of Jeremy's sideboard. If for nothing else, I don't imagine the haste is necessarily that relevant. I imagine it's just the ability to occasionally gain some life. Blind Obedience has a very good way of getting out of control.
It usually needs more than 2 lands to be effective, though.
Well, it is going to get some value here by gaining him 2 life by stopping the Chanter's Phoenix attack here. Troy drawing a lot of land here. He's down to 2 cards at hand. clearly his deck is not going to be able to draw many cards. And
Plus, I mean, he's Scry 2.
Yes.
Scry 2 to the bottom.
And then Jeremy's got his Blind Obedience online. He's going to cast a Skyjack and Extort. So 17-19, so they haven't updated the life counter, but those are the life totals. I think keeping track on paper there. So at least Troy at this point has a win condition. He can at least put some pressure on here. Can you see what cards are in his hand?
Oh, I can't see any of the cards there.
There's a Magma Jet on the Skyjack. More importantly, Troy's going to be able to scry 2 cards here. I see a Scry Land, which goes on the bottom, and an unknown card remaining on top. So Troy's setting himself up with at least some gas next turn. Pretty sure Troy's at 19 as well. So 3 mana, 4, and a Johnny, Caller of the Pride. And at this point, you just... How's his +1 read?
Up to 1 target creature.
Okay.
So you can +1 without a target.
Just to keep, put some loyalty on it. Troy debating an end of turn play here. Opts not to. I don't think you really care about that Johnny too much.
Not if you have the burn spells for every creature that he plays. There's another Phoenix.
Yeah. The old, the always awkward post-combat Phoenix, but in this case, not nearly as bad as it usually is.
Yeah.
Well, if one Blind Obedience was good, then the second one's got to be good as well. Jeremy doesn't really have the mana to take advantage of it, but the ability to extort twice is going to be pretty relevant here. You know, next turn he can cast a 1-drop and gain 2 life. So Troy deciding what he wants to do here. Just serving in at Jeremy, which is I like that play here. Johnny's ultimate's got to be like 8, right?
Yeah, Johnny's ultimate is 8, and it's based off the life total anyway. So attacking Jeremy's life total is...
Good grief.
Attacking Jeremy's life total is...
Yeah, so Jeremy's got to be excited when he drew the first Blind Obedience. I don't feel like he's as excited about the subsequent 2 copies that he's drawn, and the no lands that he has. So Helix U at the end of turn puts Jeremy down to 7, puts Troy up to 21, and Jeremy's life total effectively 3 here. You know, most of Troy's deck is lethal at this point. So serve in, putting Jeremy down to 3. Do we have the burn to finish it off? Yep. We do in fact have a lightning strike. So a very awkward draw from Jeremy's deck. I imagine he kept a hand that had Blind Obedience, some gas, and a Johnny in it, and then kept drawing Blind Obediences. And I'm assuming cards that he couldn't cast. Heliod's maybe. Who knows what was in the... Well,
that was also a big swing. So Jeremy could have had like a Banisher Priest or something in his hand, and not expected, 11 points burn out of the Troy. Troy King, 2 cards left in hand deck.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
So he did bring in the Reckoners.
That very much a game of variance.